And Donna Hankins has kindly offered to show us some of the purposes that she is using the Reg system for. But I think first, Paul, you'll tell us a few general words, and then you can introduce Donna when it fits into your purposes.
Great. All right, thanks everybody for joining us. Let me share my screen. Let's go ahead here. Okay, so let me just give you some numbers on the Reg system real quick. So far there have been 20,000, almost 21,000 forms that have been created. There have been 1.1 million registrations, and $38 million has been collected. So it's been around the block. It's had lots of people using it. So we're going to get to what are your questions and challenges at some point. But what can you use this thing for? Well, you can use it for really big events like annual conference. So if I go to Reg and I go to the form share, that's going to be one of my tips for you, is use the forms share. It's a way that you can either get forms or give forms to people. So if I type in annual conference, I can see, wow, look, there's a whole bunch of different annual conference forms that have been created. These are big, highly complex events. Like if I were to open up, which one did I say I wanted to open up? 2019 annual conference. Let's just do that. 2019 annual conference. So here's the California, Nevada annual conference session. I can hit preview. Oh, this is the survey. Sorry about that. Well, let me just give you the overview of the things you can do. You can do big events. You can do garden variety events. We'll take a look at those, workshops, classes, different things like that. You can use it for camping, camp registrations. You can do it for just sort of general forms. You can do it for charge conference forms, which I think most of the people on this call might be United Methodist. So that's a specific type of form. You can do it for simple surveys. You can do it for donation forms. Donna is going to show you something with that, which is exciting that they've done in Holston. And you can do, forms with conditional routing of notifications. So again, if we take a peek at the form share here, and I go to, let's see, 2019, let's type in annual. I think you guys have seen these kinds of things, but here's annual conference registration. And, all different types of, lots of questions. You can ask about, what meal would you like? Do you want the chicken on Wednesday, or the steak, or the vegetable? So here's, very big Reg forms. And if you like that, then you can give it to yourself. You can just say, give me a copy, and it will add it right to your system, saving you lots of time. You see that there was also a simple survey. It's not like the world's greatest survey tool, but you can do some simple surveys with it. Okay, so here's, what did you think of the annual conference session? And it has a type of question, like a ratings question, and I'll show you that in a second. You can just easily drop in, give me your ratings or your rankings of this or that or the other thing. Camp registrations, general forms, different things like that. I want to take an opportunity for Donna. Could you talk about the 3 forms that you've done in Holston?
Sure. And I can share my screen now.
Yes.
Okay. All right. If I can get to the right one. Hold on, I gotta move some stuff out of my way here. Okay, I was gonna start with this one. We when COVID hit, we decided to give our churches a way to make sure that people could still make donations to closed churches. And so we started this up early 2020, and we still have it going. And an interesting thing about this form that I noticed from the year-end statistics was that some churches actually increased their giving because they gave people a way to give online. That was kind of surprising. There weren't a lot of them, but there were a good handful of smaller churches that was an increase for. Um, and so yeah, we still have this thing going. I just looked at it today. We've had over 5,000 donations given and over $1 million worth of uh, of tithe offerings have come in. So um, I just wanted to share that and what that's done for our conference, the way we've used it. Um, we had a video from our treasurer when we started out to let them know why we were doing this, and then just gave them the basic info to provide us. And then what happens is that our treasurer's office every Monday cuts a check and sends the full amount to the church, and we cover the fees associated with the and we're using Stripe for our transactions. So I know I saw some conversations about Stripe and PayPal and whatever, and our experience has been that Stripe is the lowest transaction fees, slightly lower than PayPal's nonprofit transaction fees as well. So it's been you know, it's been worth it for us to provide the online donations that way. Um, um, yeah, so when people choose their district here, it then opens up a list of churches in that district. That's why these fields are hidden. So they can then choose their church once they choose their district and take it from there. So that's one of the forms. I don't know if you all have any questions about that one. I could show you, let's see where the reports are here. So you can see what we were able to do, what we've been able to do with it. Yeah, 5,420 people and $1.5 million has been given through this form. The other one was an interesting dilemma. We wanted to solve a problem of so many people passing away over the last couple of years, and how to keep up with the entries getting into the database, because that information comes in through so many different avenues. Sometimes the district gets it, sometimes the bishop's office gets it, sometimes a staff member lets us know that they found out about something. So we've never had anybody specifically responsible for putting those entries in, because there's a lot of data that we end up gathering leading up to our memorial service at annual conference, and that's when a lot of the last minute stuff gets in. So we just we did this form, and then we needed to make sure that everything that was being added to the form or needed to be checked off in the database, that it was all being done. So when the basic information is coming in about the person, this is mostly used internally, so this was an interesting trick we did, but we're having them do the first name, last name as the name of the person who's completing the form. And then I'm sorry, let me make sure I'm saying this right. Yeah, that's it. So that the way that the data comes through on the listing in the contact portion of the form, it lists the deceased person instead of the person who's completed the form. So that helps us to see the list of all of those folks. And the piece that we added to this to help us keep track of all the data that was needing to be entered. So these are all the basics of the pieces of info we need. But then I added this section that was all just internal use, so that somebody could just confirm that they've ended that person's email subscriptions, they've canceled their login credentials to Brick River, their leadership assignments have been ended. So we've checked all those things and make sure they've been taken care of for that person's. And then we also keeping track of surviving spouses and making sure that information now is available and up to date in the system. So anyway, that was a little solution that the form system was able to give us for trying to keep track of death notices. And then the other thing that was a lifesaver for us, let's see, let me pull the right one up here. We went back and forth last year. I don't know how many of you all did too, but we weren't sure if we were going to meet in person. We thought we were going to meet in person, and then last minute we decided it was going to be hybrid. It was going to be in person and online. So then it became, oh no, how are we going to make sure we can track attendance? And and it would needed, and because we pushed our annual conference back to August, I was going to have to turn around the next week and provide all of the attendance records for the journal and everything, like right away. And that can be kind of a hassle if you just have people sign in online and say they were there. And so I created this drop down, which has pulled in data from Brick River with their Brick River IDs. And this really was a lifesaver for me. So I put in the person's first name, last name, whether they were clergy or lay member, what district they were in, and their Brick River ID. And then I could turn around and just import all of that into the attendance records. So,
Holy cow, that's so smart. That's really good.
yeah, because people end up, they end up using a different email address, and then they might even misspell their own name, and then we can't sync up their information to get it back into the database. So that was a huge lifesaver for me to be able to turn that around quickly and get those attendance records updated. So those were the fun things I wanted to share today that we've been able to do, and I haven't put them into the forum share, but I can if any of this is helpful.
Can I ask a question, Donna? This is Lisa Wink in the Wisconsin Conference. Was there an easy way for you to put all of those clergy and or lay members and their IDs into that drop down? How did you get all of that information into that drop down menu?
Yeah, well, we had to have very succinct lists of each of these groups, clergy, lay members, of course, leading into annual conference. And so I just pulled that data of those persons' names in district and their position, along with their Brick River ID from the database, and concatenated their name, position, and district so it can appear in just one field the way it does here.
And then you're able to upload that? You didn't have
Yeah.
to. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was able to upload the spreadsheet to fill that, to populate all of these fields.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
And I'm planning to use this sort of system on a lot more of the kind of forms that we're doing where we need to track registration to, whether it's minister's convocation or any of those kind of things. So we can always have a real clear idea of, who was there and get their data back into the database.
Donna, do you often find that members of the clergy are tempted to, shall we say, bear false witness about whether they are attending a conference?
Yeah, or of course they could have only sat in for the first 15 minutes, and we did an interesting thing this year since we were online I think we did this last year too. But there was like a secret code, a secret word they had to have, and they had to provide that as part of their attendance record and it didn't come until the very last end of the session. And in some cases, I think they wouldn't know exactly when it was going to happen. So anyway.
Beautiful.
So interesting. All right, let me take back over. That was really very interesting for me as well, Donna. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any questions? Any more questions? No? Okay. All right. So let me go through the greatest hits of things it does not do. Okay. I think that there's 4 big things it doesn't do that people have asked for over the years. We just haven't ever gotten to them because they're so complicated. The first is a table matrix type question. I don't really know how to explain that, but it's like, for this question, give us like your, each answer, like I don't know how to say that. Well, what did you feel about, give us your ranking on this thing. And then it's like a table and it will say, this thing, good, bad, indifferent. This other thing, good, bad, indifferent. It does not do something like that. Like all in one question, you'd have to create a separate question for each kind of a thing, where you could maybe make a heading type question. What did you feel about this? And then you have to do a separate kind of row question for each thing. So that's that. It doesn't pull values directly from the database. So Lisa Wink, you like what a lot of times people want to do is they want to be able to create a question that says, pick your church, pick your district, pick your person. And it would be great if you could just say, I want people and then this list and boom. Or even like it to have some awareness of identity. Like for example, oh, Lisa Wink logs into the reg system. It knows Lisa Wink is a full elder and it shows that as a field in the status. It doesn't have that level of connection to the core database, which would be great if it did that. It's just sort of massively complicated. It doesn't do that. But you can do that import type of thing. So if, where am I here? Let's close up a couple things. If I go to a reg form and let's search here. Yes. You can create a field that is a multiple choice. And you can say, pick your church. And then you can say upload from a CSV. So you download it, you upload it from a CSV. And then once you do that, you also have this ability to sort it. Because what can happen sometimes is you can upload a church and then next year you copy that question, because that's one of the other things you can do is you can copy a question. So you might want to create a reg form called My Library of Common Questions. And one of them is district and one of them is church, and you just copy it from that so you don't have to do it every single time. But then next year, 2 churches are closed or 1 new one is open. You can just add it by hand and then resort it, if that makes sense. So that's one of the things I wanted to let you know about. It does not have, it has this ability to do group registration. I don't know if you guys have seen that, where you can do group registration. I sense that everybody on this call is kind of high end. Are there any novices on this call that don't know anything about the reg system? If so, can you raise your hand? Okay, so it's people. Pamela, you're a little bit of a novice ish. Okay. Yeah, there's one of the things that you can do is do group registration. So if I go back here and let's create a new form, and we'll call it group Zoom. No, it doesn't matter. You type in things. So you can create a group registration. Now, a group registration will allow you to say, Pamela Stewart and, who else is coming? David Britton, Paul Schneider, blah, blah, blah. But what sometimes people want to do is they want to say, I want to have one fee for the whole group. And even beyond that, I want to have it broken down so that if there are 5 people, then it gives a 10% discount. But then if there are 10 people, it gives a 20% discount. It doesn't ever do group level fees. They're all at the individual basis all the time, if that makes sense. Like each individual that you add would have to, so let's just go ahead and make this a group, would have to get that fee. So if I were to say a for sale question, pay for this, and it's going to be $10. If I do that in the site, and if I add somebody and add another person, I can't have the whole thing be $10. You have to then you see in the bottom right, it's going to do it for each individual person, right? So just keep that in mind. So what you have to do sometimes, you have to sort of accept that fact and make things work on an individual basis, or don't make it a group reg if you don't require the detailed information of each individual participant, if that makes sense. So any comments or questions? Okay. And then the system allows you to create signatures, but you can't, it doesn't have like a workflow of signatures. It doesn't have a way that you can say, oh, well, Donna signed it. Now Donna is going to send it to Paul for his signature and approval. And then Paul's going to send it to David. And there's no way to, prevent Paul from signing David's thing. You can have a signature, right? Pastor name or whatever, pastor signature, right? So you can do that, and you could do another signature. Where the heck is signatures? Here they are. And you could say Diaz, district superintendent, imagine that. But there's not a way that the system knows that this person can send it to that. So just bear that in mind. This comes into play in something called form bites a little more often. And what conferences tend to do is they create one signature form. So they make one form that's, I sign, the pastor's signature for all these forms, the district superintendent signature for all these forms. So that's just something about signatures. A couple of quick tips and to-dos. Use Stripe over PayPal or Braintree if you have the choice. And the reason why that is because it is a better user experience for your customers, and it is a better experience for you as users of the Reg system. So for example, when you use Stripe and you are a manager of a particular event or form or whatever, and you want to do a refund, when you're using Stripe, you can press the refund button in Brick River, and it will actually go out to Stripe, issue the refund in Stripe as well. And so now you've updated both systems, and it also works the other way. In Stripe, if you issue a refund, it'll go into Brick River and mark a refund. So that's a better user experience for you. Stripe also doesn't freeze things like I've been hearing PayPal does. I just heard from, I wonder if she'll talk. Lauren, I don't know if you want to say what's been going on.
Yeah, I know very little about it because I handle the web technical end of things and not the money end of things. But we've had an experience where PayPal is holding our funds and telling us that we have a limit on how much we can get out of our funds. And we shouldn't have this is my understanding that we shouldn't have a limit because we're a nonprofit. And so we've spent many hours, our assistant treasurer has, on the phone with PayPal trying to get it sorted out. And I'm not sure we have reached a resolution. So we are looking at Stripe.
Yeah, there were a couple of other freeze situations we had. We had the current governor of this state used the Reg system for the inaugural balls and stuff like that. And they got frozen, I think, instantly. Thousands of dollars for no reason, frozen. And the poor treasurer that was in Alabama, West Florida, he's retired. Alabama, West Florida was getting frozen all the time too. And that's one of the reasons why several years ago we created the Stripe connection. So, I mean, it's better for you guys for the donations. It's better for you not getting frozen. And it's also a better user experience for your customers, because when your customers come to a PayPal form, they get sent over to PayPal to make that final payment. Whereas when you're using Stripe, they stay within that Reg form and they just enter their credit card and they're done. So it's also easier to sign up for Stripe. Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
I was just going to say our accounts receivable people like it a lot better too. The reports they can get from it makes what they have to do a lot easier.
Yeah. Also, even like signing up, if you're not signed up, PayPal is like a multi-day process to become verified and things like that. Whereas if you're using the connection to Stripe in Brick River and you go to Reg and you go to payment accounts, you'll see here, and this may or may not do it because we've already got it, but I can say Stripe and I'm brought to a sign up page. Let's see, it may already know who I am. Get started with Stripe. So I'd have to enter my account. But the upshot is you've got one page, one form, you fill it out in 5 or 10 minutes. It reaches back out and makes the connection to Brick River. You haven't spent days getting authorized by Stripe. You haven't spent time trying to connect Brick River and PayPal together. So again, I recommend Stripe over everything. And we've even sunsetted a thing called Braintree that was a payment option, but we turned that off. So are there any questions on that?
Yeah, Paul, this is Lisa. We have not used the reg forms to collect money for anything. Our event planner uses a separate registration system altogether. Can you show me briefly how you use that to collect money in the Stripe feature? Like, do it in a
Sure.
form really quickly?
Yeah, sure. Like just general money collection?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so we were working on this form. Here it is. And what I'm going to do is let's make it out of here. Okay, so here's the group reg Zoom. And if I design the form and I go to fields, you can create questions that are, for sale questions. And so those can be all kinds of things. You can be selling physical things like t-shirts, you can be selling meals, you can be selling sort of like ticket prices. I've seen it at annual conference. What are you? Are you a volunteer? Are you a retired clergy person? Are you a lay person? Are you this person or that person? And different fees based upon that. So for example, let's say you wanted to be for sale with choices, pick your reg level. And then you could say, I'm a, retired person. And then you can have different prices. Maybe it's $25, but if you're early, it's 20. And if it's late, it's $30. And then maybe, you just say, full member, I'm just making this up. It can be anything. Full members are 50 and early is, 45 and late is 60. So you've done that, but then what you need to do on the settings page is you go to payment information. You say that you want to accept cards for this event. And so we've got all different types of things here. We've got Stripe, we've got PayPal, Braintree. So you can have multiple accounts. But let's just go ahead to this Stripe one. I don't even know if this works. I should have done it. You can also require online payment upon submission. If you don't require online payment, if you don't check that, which is fine, most people don't, they can pay cash at the door. They can give you a check at the door. They can send you a check. They can mail you a check, right? If you check this, if they don't pay online within 1 hour, it cancels the registration. Kind of like, Ticketmaster, it sort of holds it. You've got 10 minutes to pay. So it literally will register them, but then it'll cancel it after the fact if it hasn't received money within an hour. You can do deposits and then enter the minimum amount. So now if I go down here and I save this, let's see what's going to even happen. View this thing in the site. I don't even know what will happen. Okay, and I'm going to pay for this. I'm going to pay $10, and that's all good. And let's say I'm retired, so $35. Now let's see if this Stripe, I don't even know if it's hooked up or not. Okay, so there we go. So now I could just enter a credit card. I'm not having to press a button to go away to PayPal. I can just enter the card number, submit payment, done. That makes sense. So Lisa, did that answer your question, or do you have more?
Nope, you did. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Yeah. Okay. Let me keep going.
The refund portion is really simple too. I really like that. If someone needs a refund.
Awesome. Okay, I'm sharing this out.
Let me ask a quick question on that, Donna. Do you know if you do a refund, do they charge you fees to do the refund? Stripe?
I don't think so.
No. Okay, good.
Great question. Like I said, use the form share. It'd be great if you shared things out, or if you got things, save yourself a lot of time. What does allow changes to submitted forms mean? What's that all about? Well, it's often the case for group registration. Let's say the use case was camping. A church or somebody registers a bunch of people, but they don't exactly know who's going to come, right? So I go in and I say, I don't know, person number 1, and whatever, kid number 2. I don't know who's coming, but I'm just going to sort of say who I know at this moment. What you can do is, in settings, you can allow changes to submitted forms. So what will happen is the person that registers will get a confirmation, and that link will be to the confirmation that will allow them to edit it. And that comes into play with this confirmation. This is what they see when they register online, but then you can give them different text in the email, like, remember, you can click the link here, to change it, whatever. So that's that. Sometimes people say, well, why I'm getting spam registrations. That's because you might want to turn on a CAPTCHA. Somewhere in here is a thing called a CAPTCHA. That the new Geico commercial with the robot, the prove you're not a robot kind of thing. So that's what the CAPTCHA does. So if I save that and I view it in the site, now we've got that I'm not a robot thing. Turn those on so you don't get spam reg. Quick pick ratings. What's this all about? So if I go to multiple choice, how's this Zoom? I can either go and add them by hand, or I can quickly pre-fill with rating options. And so there's a bunch of different rating options. 1 to 3, 1 to 5, 1 to 10, completely disagree, very poor. So there we go. It's just been added. That's nice. And I can either have that show on the screen, or I can have it be in a drop-down list. So if I do that, then I've got those answers right there. So that's your quick picks, okay? Choosing what to see in notifications. There's often a time where, let's say I were to create a multiple choice, and I could say, what is your district, or department, it doesn't really matter, or campus ministry, or state, or whatever. And you want to have the registration go to the state manager or the department manager or whatever. What you can do is you can say, we're in the finance department, or we're in the sales, I don't even making this up. Or we're in something else. I don't know.
Marketing.
Okay. So let's say you've got a multiple choice there and somebody does that, but you want to have conditional notifications. You go to notifications and you can say, okay, notify Paul and David. You can just separate them by commas, or you can say, based upon this district or department, if somebody says finance, that's going to go to David@brickriver.com. But if somebody says, what is your district or department, whatever, it's operations, send that to Paul@brickriver.com. So it'll send a notification, and then you can choose what you see. So if you say add all, and you then in your email get to see the answers to everything. You don't have to click and go into the reg form itself. So that's something that, is helpful on notifications. Any questions on that? Okay, so again, use case is districts. The use case is campus ministries I've seen, and different department type things. Sharing reports. This is very helpful. If you go back to the manager, you can both share and view things, both for yourself and external people. So by default, this screen right here only shows a few fields, it's fixed. But maybe you just want like a view for yourself. So you can create a shared report. You can do a view, shared report, or download. They all have the same configurator, but let's create a shared report called, for the caterer. I'm making it up, right? But then you can uncheck all the columns. Often this is like for the caterer, for the district superintendents, for people outside of the Brick River system. And you want to make it so that they just have a private link and they don't have to think about anything. Okay. So then I can choose what fields I want them to be able to see. Okay. I want them to see the department, what they thought about the Zoom and the reg level. Okay. And the first name and last name of the people. So I'm going to call that for the caterer. And then what does this thing mean? Paged or not paged? Sometimes reg forms are very essay based. How are you doing in life, whatever, tell us your thoughts on this, that, or the other thing. People answer in paragraphs and they need to be read. Instead of it being a tabular view, make it page so you can read it more easily. That's what this page thing is all about. Okay, so let me try to move the Zoom thing out of the way and I'll hit share. And now I've got a link here that you can just give this link out to people. They can print it or they can download it. They can sort it easily. They can search it. That's a great way to do it. But then again, for you, if I go back, where the heck am I here? Let's say that was something that you wanted as a quick view. Now you can just go to your shared reports. If you actually click on it and then get it. And that's a quick way of you getting like sort of a saved report. Any questions on that? Nope. Okay. Sorry. 138. I'm gonna keep going here. I don't know if you knew this. Some people, this matters to them. I mean, or it's important. Putting in a video. You can do that in a question like, and I forget what question it is. If you go to fields and you create a question called description, you can embed a video right there. That's better than trying to futz around with it because you can't even get into the source. So that just makes you, enables you to add a video. You can add files. I think you probably knew that. I mean, these things are pretty straightforward. You might want to do headings to group things, but you can do files if people need to upload who knows what. Anything, PDFs, Excel files, resumes, whatever it might be. They can add files. And you can also have calculated questions. That doesn't work for for sale things. It doesn't work for sale things, but it might be like, if you want certain inputs to do a calculation, you can do that. There's also coupons, so you can do scholarships. So you could create a coupon called, David Britton Scholarship Fund, whatever it is, and you can create codes so that if they enter ABC, you give them $100. Or if they enter XYZ, then you take $200 off of their registration. Donna, do I see your hand up?
Yeah, it seems to me I've tried to play with the calculated option and maybe it wasn't, I don't know if you can do a quick run through on how that how the calculation part works.
Yeah, sure. I think it's kind of an esoteric use case. I don't think it's, I honestly don't think it's used very much. It's one of those maybe, good ideas that was never used very often. Anyway, so there's coupons. And then how many are available? Let's say, you got 10 of these available and you've got 5 of these available. But for calculations, you might want to say, ooh, what did I do wrong? Into the text. Okay. So a calculation might be, actually, let's do this first. Let's create a thing called, I don't even know what to do, base salary. We were going to use this to do clergy compensation years ago. And then let's say you create another text box called housing allowance. You could create a, let's cancel this. You could create a calculated question that is total salary. And you could say base salary plus housing allowance. And then let's have it go 2 decimal places. And I want it to be giant, and the font is bold. Let's make it pixels. If I did this right, let's see it. It should allow me to do 50, 1, 2, 3, and then $3,000. So there we go. That's what that does. But it
Okay.
doesn't work on these things. These for sale questions.
Would it work on, say, registering it for an event that has multiple components? Like, are you going to have lunch? Are you going to stay for 2 days or 3 days? Or, would it be able to
It's-
adjust prices that way?
You wouldn't need it because
You wouldn't.
all of that stuff that's done is
Yeah.
done just at the reg level.
In the reg level,
It'll add
got
it
it.
all up for you.
Got it.
So it sounds like if you wanted to do a calculation, each value needs to be its own question, and then you can add those questions together. Is that correct?
Exactly. But you don't need to do it for anything that's for sale because it's going to do all of that for you anyway. I
Thank
want to
you.
show. Go ahead.
I just said
Okay.
thanks.
Conditional questions. You saw conditional notifications. Conditional questions. Let's say you were to do a multiple choice. Okay, I already did this. Pick your reg level. So let's say I want to ask a full member question, and it's a text box, and I say, how are you doing as a full member? And I'll say that that's multiple line. So if somebody says, I'll drag this here, I wonder if I can do it. I may not be able to do it as, I can only do it as a multiple choice. Okay, so let's say I say, okay. I can go to conditions and I can say, what is your level? And if somebody says full, I'll say, how are you doing as a full member? So that if I do that in the site, where does it say, what's your level? So if I say provisional, nothing happens. But if I say full, it asks that. And it'll also do that on a person by person basis. So if I say this person and another person is 777, now if I say I'm full, let's just say for both, this person's full, then it's going to ask that, so it can do it per person is all I'm getting at. That's conditional questions. Okay, let's look at sync to DB, which is here, sync to DB. What does that mean? It goes like one stage deep, but not multiple levels. So let's say everybody that I register, by default, they go into the registrants table, okay? Right? There's this registrants table. If I go back to manager, let's try to click on this thing. And if I look at contacts, there's registrants, or if I look at reg, there's all registrants. It's this kind of vanilla place outside of your core people database. They go there. And we, when somebody registers, it goes and it says, hey, does anybody with this same first name, last name, nickname, phone number, email exist in the database? If so, link them to this event, to this form. If not, create a new record. But maybe what you want to do is maybe you want to dump them right into your people table. That's what sync to DB is all about. And you want to say that they did something like this. Isn't going to be, it doesn't do relationships, but let me click on this thing. Okay. You could say, what would actually be valuable? Is a lead. This is something that we did in Brick River. When somebody would fill out our contact form, we would mark them as a lead in our database. So it would go directly into your people database, and then it would say that they are a lead. But you can't go into relationships. You can't say, oh, there's a relationship called training. If they register for this, say that they registered for the background check 2021 background check training. You know what I'm saying? You can't go into a relationship. You can't go and say, oh, they attended this annual conference, but you can update the categories or fields on that one table, right? You can give them a tag, and the tag is they're a illustration person or whatever. You can do that, but you can't go into related tables. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Question. I'm not sure if I heard this part of what you were saying, but like, I'm just thinking of a use we might have for this. Someone that's not in our database at all yet, but they fill out a form that says, I want to apply for candidacy or go to candidacy school. Would it automatically create a profile for them in people?
If you chose people, boom, it's going to put them in people. They're going to be a registrant and a person. And then if you had some kind of a tag, like just a simple tag, not a relationship, it could tag them or update a field.
One field, or would but it would generate a whole profile for them as well in people?
It's just going to make a record that is a person record. It's going to make, because at the base level, there's contacts, and then they're just flavored. There's contacts that are registrant flavor, people flavor, whatever, church flavor. But so all it's going to do is tag that as both a registrant and a person.
Oh, okay. So it won't necessarily, if the form has their address and phone number, it's not necessarily going to fill in all those fields as well.
Right. It won't do that, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Let me see where I'm on my list, and then I'm going to open it up to questions. Let me share out my screen, please. Embedding a form. Maybe you want to take a form and put it onto a web page. Maybe this form we want to put on a web page. So what I'll do is I'll go to settings. No, I'm sorry. Go back to manager. Want to embed this form in another page? Use Reg Embed Helper where you want to embed it. On one, you have to have the website on Brick River, but you can copy this, and I could create a new page called let's go. Sorry. I don't know what's going on. Somebody chatted something. Let me see if I can see what this is. Oh, somebody left. Okay. So I could, well, this is something we actually did. Here's the holiday gathering. We were going to have it here at Brick River. And we wanted to embed a reg form. So we did that. Let us know if you're coming or just show up. So how did we do that? We went into the source and we just added that tag. Or you can go to snippets and type the word embed in there. And there's embed a reg form, must be done in source. And then you can pick that, whatever it was called, group. Oh, no, I have to go like this. I have to click this thing and type in group or Zoom or something. Group reg Zoom. If I do that, it does the same thing. Where am I? The Zoom thing's in the way. Okay, it did the same thing. So that's a way that you can embed a form. So if I go to the page, here it is, and you can have an embedded form. Okay. And I'm not going to get into ticketing and tracking attendance because we're too close to the end, but you can do ticketing and you can track attendance in it if you turn that on. I'm going to turn it over to questions. Questions? Go ahead, Mandana.
Is there a way to do like a sign up genius kind of thing where you give all the choices and then as people choose them, they disappear?
I think somebody's hacked something like that in the past where they did like, they picked times for different things. You could do a bunch of different slots and then have them have a capacity of one. Or like, because what are you trying to do?
Like scheduling clergy times
Yeah, I
to meet
think
with the DS.
I forget what somebody did, but I think, oh, let me share this out. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this on the fly. I'm pretty sure you could, let's close this up. Here it is. How might we do that? If I go to fields, like let's say I already create a heading and, you know, sign up for your time. And let me see what we can do. Is there multiple choice? Does this have capacities? No. So then let's cancel that. Let me see here. It's like 1,000 views in it. Multiple choice checkbox. What if we did for sale with choices? Because I know you can have capacities on that, you know, which slot. And then you can make them $0 to hack it, you know, first hour. And then you've got one slot available, right? You know, second hour. I don't know if, you know, if you wanted to do something like that, that may be the way to do it. I know I'm hacking it a little bit. I don't know what you can do with lodging. I don't think you could do anything with lodging where you can have capacity splits and stuff like that. But I think the way I saw somebody do it was something like this. Like here you go, first hour. So now if I choose this thing, first hour, there's only going to be one available. I don't know if that answers your need or not.
I could try.
There's reports and stuff like that too. Like it's got like kind of like a lightweight survey thing in it where some of the multiple choice questions you ask, it will do it'll show you like line graphs and stuff like that on it. What other questions do you guys have? All right, I'm gonna end it.
Okay, great.
Oh, Donna, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask this early on when you happen to follow up and mention Formvites when you're doing the group registration. And it got me thinking about how you could still use that. You use a FormVite for group registration, but does a FormVite let you do calculations like financial transactions or not?
Because it just uses forms. Um,
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know of any case of calculations where anybody's actually using that. It was originally intended to do clergy compensation 5 years ago when it was added. And then we realized it wasn't quite good enough. So,
I think what I'm asking though is I've never because we've only used FormVites as just forms, just data, not a transaction. So a FormVite could be a registration form where you're paying for something for a group, for instance. And then we found how it's so easy to just share the link to the FormVite. Couldn't they just share the link to the next person that needs to sign off on the form?
well, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, because then I guess it would be like how you made it, but that conceptually, at least it seems like a decent idea, something worth pursuing.
Okay, I just want to make sure that sounded doable or possible with that type of group form.
This is one of these types of systems that's like Swiss Army knife-ish, where you can do a lot of things with it. Go ahead, Lisa.
I just had a question, because it seems like most of us here have used the Reg system and are familiar with creating it. Do you have a video out there that's like the basics that we can share with our team members of just how to start, how to create a basic form? Here's what all the fields do.
Yeah, you can just go into everybody has in the bottom right of their, if they go to Reg forms, on the bottom right is learn. And then you've got all of that basic stuff here. How ticketing works, the whole Reg system overview.
Okay.
So this is really good here. So
Okay.
I didn't use that. How do I stop sharing the screen here? I lost the thing. Well, we'll have to, oh, there it is. There's a stop share. Okay. Want to take us home?
Sure. Well, Donna, thank you for doing, Donna Hankins, everybody, thank you for doing those great presentations of those forms. That was really good use of the Reg system. And also thank you for mentioning the FormVites, because that happens to be the topic of our next webinar, Wednesday, January 12th. It's a triple header about FormVites, the People Portal, and the church dashboard. So going to get into some really fun stuff there. So we'll let you have your pleasant holiday. We're not going to interrupt with any demands that you come and learn about Brick River while you're supposed to be having a great time. So yeah, like I said, so the next webinar is Wednesday, January 12th. You'll be getting a notification about it. But thank you so much for attending this one, and have a happy, joyous, peaceful holiday, and we'll see you after that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas.
Thanks, Donna. Bye.